Hi, this is a little video about a project I'm going to be teaching when we finally get back to class in April. And I wanted to look at some blocks that the block on itself is complete, but when it's attached to other blocks the same, a secondary pattern is formed. And one of the easiest ways of demonstrating this is with one of my favourite blocks, which is Log Cabin. Now, the difference with this one is that the strips on one side, the pattern strips, are 2.5 inches wide, so perfect use of jelly roll strips. But the plain strips on the other side are only 1.5 inches. But the design and the construction is exactly the same as a traditional log cabin block. So to start, what I've done is I've chosen, this is a Moda range of fabric that I found is probably years out of date, and I didn't have it as jelly rolls, so from each piece I've cut 2.5 inch strips. So like I say, again, perfect for use of a jelly roll. So I've cut 2.5 inch strips from 4 different fabrics, but they all coordinate together. So I've got them the full width of the fabric. And then I'm using white because I thought that would give a good contrast. And the white strips are 1.5 inches wide. So I think that gives a nice contrast with that. Now, because Log Cabin is a very traditional block, it usually features in lots of sampler quilts, and it's one that comes from the American heritage of quilting. And often the central square is red in colour because it represents the hearth. So it's the hearth of the log cabin, the core of the building, and the heart of the family that would live there to me. So it's got a very emotive look. So I decided to keep my centre square as red. Now I'm saying centre square because when it's constructed, it doesn't actually stay in the centre. Now, if the white strips were 2.5 inches, then obviously the red square would stay in the centre. But because we've got these two different dimensions, the centre square, the red square, moves off centre. So that's why it's called off centre log cabin. But to construct it is exactly the same. So you start with your centre square. So this is 2.5 inches, and I have sewn a white strip down one side, trim, open out, press, and then do the other side. Now it's important that whichever direction you start, so if you're going clockwise or anti-clockwise, that you must continue that way. So I'm left-handed, but I do find it easier to go round clockwise, adding the pieces. So on here, I've got 2 strips. So the first piece added here and folded up, and then the second piece on here. So we're ready now for our first of the contrasting strips. So I can either keep to the same sequence as this one, which might be nice, or because they all coordinate, I can do whatever I want. So I might pick this one. So we've got 1, 2. So the next piece is going to go along the bottom. So what I like to do is put right sides together and sew a scant 1/4 inch. Now, whatever your seam allowance is, if you've set it at a 1/4 inch or it's a scant 1/4 inch, keep it to that. Don't change it halfway through because the blocks will change size and dimensions. So done there, trim across the bottom and fold out, and then do the next piece that will run along the bottom. I'm trying to do this up in the mid-air. So if you look on this block that I've done, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 2 whites, 2 patterns. So the whites are the narrower ones, 2 patterns, back to white, 5, 6, back to patterns, 7, 8, back to white, 9, 10, and continue around until you get to a size that you're happy with. So this measures just about 12 inches. So because I'm going to make this into blocks of 4s of this, so I might need 12. It doesn't really matter what the finished size is, as long as each block is the same size. So if yours finishes at 11 inches, make them all 11 inches. Now, what's also important is that you start with the same option. So I've started with my plain and the narrow one, and I finish with the plain and the narrow. Now, if you start the other way and start with the wider strip, it works exactly the same, but you must do 2 of those and then 2 of the white and go all the way around, and just keep going until you're happy with the size. Now, obviously, because the white is narrower, I've got an extra row. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, but we've only got 1, 2, 3 rounds of the wider, and that gives us a square. Now, if you can imagine another block of this sitting alongside, but with the white on this side, join in, and another one with the white here, you can quickly see where we end up with a secondary pattern in white. And the same if we did this side, if we had the blue there, and then the blue there, and then the blue there, and the blue there, and that's where we get our secondary pattern. So I'm going to carry on working on these. I'm daisy chaining them, so I'm doing a whole pile at the same time now that I've worked out how many I need. So I'm going to work on all of these, and then when I've got 4, I will join them together, probably on the design wall. I'll let you have a look. Okay, enjoy.